So after rewatching the pure cinema that was Infinity Castle, I was completely shocked by how much effort Ufotable put into the production versus the actual manga. Then after seeing all these breathing styles, I remembered, none of this is real. It's all visual effects, which means realistically speaking, anyone can have a breathing style. So I decided to give 10 random anime MCs their very own breathing style. And the rules for this is I'm going to either put them in a category like how Naruto would be for flame breathing, or if they're too unique of a case, give them their own breathing style with a set of forms depending on how good they were with their abilities. And we'll be going in order via this wheel, so stay tuned because the last breathing style should honestly get animated. But real quick, here's a 10-second synopsis on what a breathing style is. A breathing style in Demon Slayer is a special swordsmanship technique that uses controlled breathing to boost strength, speed, and focus while mimicking elements like fire, water, or lightning. Each style has unique forms that shape how the fighter moves and attacks, but these are technically not there and don't actually have any real elemental effects as we're led to believe. Now, for the first MC, we got Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. And I know you're probably thinking, Sukuna isn't the MC, but I decided to broaden the horizon for other characters, and he might not be the main character, but he is a main character. And with Sukuna, he's a great start to this because he is 100% sun breathing. Aside from just his fuga, he's like a founding father in sorcery. There's a reason why he's considered the king of curses, and here are the top explanations for him being in the strongest breathing category. For one, he's top 2 in the verse, same as Yorichi was. There's only 2, maybe 3 people capable of going toe to toe with him. Secondly, Sukuna's extensive knowledge of sorcery is second to none, and he knows all the fundamentals of curse energy and everything that has to go with it, just like how sun breathing is the godfather of all other breathing styles. Next, Sukuna's open barrier domain is insanely broken, and it cuts and dices as fast, if not even faster than Yorichi would, so it's like a direct correlation to him. And lastly, his fuga is considered to be as hot as the sun. Well, I'm not entirely sure how accurate that is, but with what his seems to be unlimited curse energy supply, he can continue fighting for prolonged periods, just like Tanjiro was with the Hinokami Kagura. And putting everything else into perspective, Sukuna just embodies what it means to be the grandfather of his anime, putting him in that upper echelon of breathing styles with access to all 13 forms. Now back to the wheel, and the next character up is Deku. Because of Deku's 7 different quirks, it could have gone so many different ways. His smoke screen could have been mist breathing, his float could have been wind breathing, his black whip could have been considered stone breathing, but ultimately I think it has to be thunder breathing with all 7 forms. Aside from the fact that Deku uses his gear shift and Fajin to basically warp around at lightning speed, he also has this form when looking at it resembles what a thunder breathing type would have been, if it was green of course. And then when you think about the earlier versions of Deku, he used full Kowlin and had electricity all around him that gave him a major speed boost, so all signs point to thunder breathing, especially this moment where he jetted the sky and mimicked the sound of thunder. And although this was a clear-cut winner, stone breathing was not too far behind because one for all, before all the other quirks, is based on brute strength, and that's the basis of stone breathing. Next up, we got Death the Kid from Soul Eater. His breathing style is obviously going to be American breathing, and I know that may sound like a joke, but I'm not kidding. Death the Kid's entire persona really matches more of that demon side, especially with him being the son of Death himself, and it would make more sense, but because this is just breathing styles, we have to stick to that. And Genya does use guns, but he technically doesn't have a style, so it would have to be his very own unique breathing form. And like I said earlier, it will be called American breathing. Death the Kid's character is overly obsessed with perfection and symmetry. He can't function without his twin sister demon weapons either, so that's a must. And in this breathing style, he will have twin pistols like he normally does, but the bullets are made out of scarlet crimson, the same ore used to make Nichiren blades. But these bullets hit 10 times harder, and because Death the Kid is technically a unique case in his verse, he'll also have Marechi blood. And if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's a blood type that Sanemi has, which makes demons basically more attracted to your blood, and when they consume it, they get a drunken effect. With every shot he takes, it slowly extracts some of his blood onto the bullets, making the demons chase these bullets, purposefully getting hit, and then having a slowed handicap. And because it is a one-of-one breathing style with no foundations from the others, and Death the Kid has a straightforward ideology, it'll only have one form, which is twin bullet equilibrium, purely based on offense, the same way he was in Soul Eater. And I'm sticking with the American breathing name, but if we had to go more Demon Slayer accurate, it would be something along the lines of like Reaper breathing, turning firearms into a just death symphony. Coming up next on the wheel, we got Denji from Chainsaw Man. And there is no breathing style to capture his chaotic and violent fighting techniques, so his breathing style is going to be called Ren breathing. Denji's whole identity is raw survival and reckless aggression. Unlike elegant swordsmanship like Rengoku or even Gyu, his fighting is messy, but even more relentless. He fights like someone who doesn't care if he gets hurt, as long as the enemy goes down before him. So his breathing style would have to embody chaos, pain tolerance, and into brute force instead of just refinement. And because he relies so much on pure instinct, it will only have about 4 forms, all focused on offense. And once again, if I had to choose, he would probably be just like Kokushibo, where he adapted a breathing style and then turned it to a demon to refine it and have super regeneration to combat his self-destructive tendencies, due to each of his 4 forms taking way too much blood for him to sustain using it. And with regeneration under his belt, suddenly his reckless and suicidal fighting style actually becomes a little more limitless, and he can burn through his own body again and again and just keep getting back up. The only other breathing style even remotely close to what Denji's fighting would be is beast breathing. Inosuke fights the same as he does, with instinct and animal behavior, as well as them both having dual type weapons to wield. They also rely too much on their pain tolerance, and that puts them in harm more times than not, and they need to be a little bit more stronger to dish it back. And for the next character, we got Jotaro. Jotaro's entire fighting style is contingent on the fact he doesn't like to waste movements. He just always goes for the fastest way to end the fight. And with Star Platinum, it has rapid pace, striking speed, and high power along with precision. He's patient and calculated in his fights, which leads to his breathing style being pulse breathing. Inspired by heartbeat rhythm, time and bursts of power like Star Platinum's attacks. This style will have 8 forms, and each form will represent precision, rapid combos, finishing moves that just matches his stand to a T. The only downside to this style is the limited mobility aspect. Because Star Platinum is so strong, it is constantly in a fixed position, resulting in short range attacks. So he's a powerhouse in close quarters, but a liability when it comes to moving around. If this had to be compared to a breathing style, it would be a mix of sound breathing and flame breathing. The sound breathing is there because although it's slow in terms of movement, it still has those quick bursts of speed in the actual attacks, and then flame breathing because the attacks have real power behind it, making it have high offensive capabilities. Adding time stop onto it might be a little overkill due to it negating the only weakness that he has, so we'll leave that ability to only when he uses a Demon Slayer mark and it's activated, and it is only 2 uses per day. For the next MC, we got Zoro. Now Zoro doesn't have a devil fruit to give him a unique style of his own, but he is a natural born swordsman, so he fits into almost any breathing styles already available. So for Zoro's, I would have to go with a unique case and turn him into Tanjiro to get him in a category of his own called Omni breathing. With this, Zoro has access to all 6 of the fundamental breathing styles derived from sun breathing, including that itself, which is stone, water, flame, wind, and thunder. Giving him all 6 of these breathing styles may seem like glaze, but trust me when I tell you, he embodies pure swordsmanship, and I'll explain why for each. He has sun breathing because Zoro has displayed immense precision and overall sword skills to the point where he would easily know the founding style, and also he has shown great lengths of endurance, especially when it comes to taking pain. Thunder breathing because, as we know, he is fast and uses speed to blitz his opponents before they even get a chance to think. Flame because he swings his sword at speeds that have so much offensive power, it creates fire. Wind because he uses slashes of just the weight of his sword for long range attacks that cut through the air itself. Water because of his 3 sword style and him being able to defend well while also maintaining good offense. And stone breathing because of the raw strength and instincts he relies on to fight. So if you weren't convinced before, you have to be now. I don't even think it was fair having him up here with the rest of these swordsmen. But to the next character, we got Levi. Another swordsman, but not the traditional type, so it's much simpler. And I don't know why, but for some reason, he reminds me of Sanemi, and my mind is telling me wind style, but also screaming sound breathing as well, due to both of them having speed as the main factor. Wind breathing because of his agile, unpredictable movements. Sanemi's style already emphasizes flurries and unpredictable attacks, especially how Levi decimates Titans with that ODM gear. With that being said, I think about Tengen and how he still uses speed, but with 10 times more precision. So I think sound breathing makes the most sense in my opinion. Tengen fights by reading enemy scores and then breaking down the attacks into predictable patterns. Levi does this with Titans too, and he studies their movement and then moves accordingly. Tengen also uses 2 blades chained together, and then Levi uses dual blades too, with an overwhelming close range style that mimics one another. But the argument is sound breathing is more flashy and loud, versus Levi being more stealthy and calculated. But him being a sound Hashira just sounds way better than him being a wind. So I'm going to stick with that, and he'll have access to 3 of the 5 forms. Now back to the wheel, and we have Naruto. The son of the Yellow Flash and his insane speed calls for thunder breathing. I mean, just imagine him with it and it all makes sense. But then I came to my senses and realized his natural chakra nature without the Sage Mode or 6 paths was wind style, and wind breathing is exactly what Naruto does. His signature move is Rasengan and Rasen Shuriken, and we've seen him do other wind style jutsu as well, so it kind of lines up. The other concern is that Naruto wouldn't technically need a sword, but it would be the thing that makes the most sense in this case. But nonetheless, wind breathing is still the perfect style for him, mainly on the offensive side. And if you think about it, he probably developed his own variation, something like maybe hurricane breathing, an evolved form of wind breathing that mirrors the chaos and destructive force of the nine tails that's inside of him. A style that starts as precise as wind techniques, but then builds into massive uncontrollable storms, just like Naruto's wind nature. So it'd be like a branch of wind breathing, like how sound breathing is a branch of thunder breathing, and then so forth. He'd have access to only 3 forms though, since he's a bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to his powers. And for the final 2, up next we got Frieren. And she's an overpowered monster in her own regard, but what truly puts Frieren above all is her vast amounts of knowledge. And what Hashira do we know with the most knowledge? Shinobu. Insect breathing is the perfect parallel for Frieren, since she and Shinobu have very similar body types and rely on agility to best their opponents. With Frieren also being more strategic with her fights, using poison to weaken or beat an enemy seems like the route she would take. It would compensate for the lack of power she would have due to her smaller frame. The only other styles that would come close to matching her is mist breathing and love breathing. Mist breathing because she has one of the best mana suppression abilities in the show, making her seem invisible at times, just like Muchiro was when he created eerie scenes to make it hard for the enemy to spot him. She also utilizes flight as one of her many abilities, and I know mist breathing didn't directly have flight, but it seems like something that one of the two would have. Then for love breathing, this was just because she was mourning Himmel and the story is about her love for him. She doesn't have any actual traits for love breathing, and I'm positive of this too because she always found herself stuck in trapped chest. She'd also have all 4 forms, which comes with the age as well. She'd have too much time to not master them. And for the final breathing style, we have Asta, another real swordsman that makes it much more fun to create. Off the bat, one thing we know about Asta is his inability to use magic, so I feel the same would have to go for total concentration, which is what's needed to do breathing's techniques. Just like Genya, he'd have to figure out his own way, and that leads to Asta's breathing style, void breathing. This is a direct pull from the nullification effect, except this time in the Demon Slayer world, Asta is the only person to have found black crimson ore. This ore is stronger than the one used to make the Nichiren blades and actually nullifies the demon's regeneration abilities completely. So whenever Asta fights demons, they immediately go for the kill shot and they do not toy around at all because they know the consequences of getting cut by a sword. The only downside to this style is because the ore is so strong, it can only be made in its big sword form, which causes mobility issues. He has shades of stone breathing due to his great physical prowess, but it is still a hindrance to fight against a demon who has way more stamina than he does. This breathing style will only have 5 forms, with each form getting progressively slower as his strikes deal more damage. It's the perfect blend of Asta's lack of power with his counter to said power. And that is the final one. I've now done domain expansions and breathing styles. So if you can guess what the next one will be, I'll do the character of your choice in the next video as well.